Welcome to Weekly Reset. Thank you all so much for being here and supporting us. Now, this is a podcast primarily for gaming discussion, and from time to time, I'll be bringing in guests that I would like to showcase. However, today, I am going to be accompanied by my two co-hosts. We have Cease, who has definitely made me a better SWTOR player this past year and a half. He plays every single class and spec as well as roles, and he's someone that I generally refer people to like if they have questions regarding rotation, utilities, and builds. He also has a YouTube channel, and I'll let him speak about that a little bit later. I know he's been working really hard on uploading a lot of videos. Now, my other co-host is Score. I've known him forever. No, actually not forever, but 2.5 years or more. And he's a new variety streamer. He's just starting to stream again. And currently, you'll find him streaming the new Monster Hunter. What is it? Iceborne? Is that what it's called?
Expansion Iceborne, yes.
Iceborne. I know he was streaming some Destiny 2, but I think he's like, I want a new game. So he's off to Monster Hunter. So I'll let him
clarify that point. D2 sucks. Monster Hunter World is better. Okay.
Okay, there you go. So I'll let him speak about how that game's going, that expansion, I should say, since it dropped like a couple days ago or something like that.
On the 9th, so 3 days ago.
Oh, okay. So fairly recent. So he can kind of tell you guys how that is, if that's a game that you guys are interested in possibly getting. So I don't know which one of my co-hosts wants to go first, but I'm going to pass the mic over to them.
Yeah.
Okay, so can we continue talking about the chocolate in the fridge thing? Because I feel like that's very important.
Always put your chocolate in the refrigerator. It tastes much better. Thank you. Yeah. That is all.
Oh, come on. Not even going to elaborate.
Why does it have to be in the fridge? Can't you just leave it out?
Because it will melt.
Yeah,
you don't want it melting in your hand. You want it melting in your mouth. There you go.
So do you melt the chocolate when you're about to eat it then? What's the point of keeping it in the fridge then?
No, you keep it in the fridge so it doesn't melt in your hand and it melts in your mouth.
Wow. I can't really hear a Score.
Is this better? How about now?
Yeah.
Keep your chocolate hard at all times. Thank you. Put it in the fridge. Okay, can we move on to game talk and away from chocolate?
Are you sure? I feel like the chocolate's very important.
No, chocolate is important, but not currently now.
You're about to say it's not important.
It's important, but not now.
Yeah. I mean, as far as elaborating on the state of D2 as it is right now, I've been saying this on my stream ever since I've stopped playing it. It's just this season is very lackluster. There's not a lot of new things for people to do that have been playing consistently. It's very much a new player experience right now. So a lot of new players are enjoying the game, while a lot of the vets that used to play a lot, like me and Touchy, Stewie and all them, we're kind of getting burnt out just because, well, Touchy's not getting burnt out, but I'm getting burnt out, and Stewie's agreeing with me that there's just not enough to do as it is right now.
Is this better, Aramel? You let me know.
It might be on Nami's end, because I hear you just fine.
Okay. It might just be on stream, because I haven't changed anything since yesterday when I was streaming, so we're having more mic issues.
Yeah, because it's, I hear him fine in Discord, so I don't know if it's something, I don't even know what to do. Are you hearing Cease and I fine?
It's probably just me. It's fine. This is fine.
Yeah, maybe refresh the stream and see if that helps.
I highly doubt it, to be honest. I don't think refreshing would do anything.
Oh, I don't know.
At least that's just my opinion.
Is everybody else having the same problem, or?
Well, I mean, if Sly and Aramel are talking about it, it's got to be at least have some, truth to it, right?
Yeah, Cease is a not slow talker. I mean, soft talker.
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, he's hard to hear, so you have to turn him up. But Okay, let's get to some game talk.
I was just talking about it, and then I was rudely interrupted. Very rude. I'm just
Wait,
kidding.
you're the one who was talking to Aramel. What? We're talking about voice.
No, she interrupted me along
Okay.
with Sly. They are
Oh my
collaborators.
gosh. Should I time him out? Okay, what kind of podcast is this? We're like timing out our mods. Oh, score is sounding
You got
better.
a
Okay, good.
intervention.
Have
Intervention.
an intervention.
I
That's
need
right.
an adult.
Well, I mean, it does bring up the topic, at least D2 as it is, because a lot of people are getting really upset with Bungie because they're not really doing much of anything as it is. Like, they only fix game-breaking bugs, and then they leave shit unfixed. Sorry, excuse my language. They leave a lot of stuff untouched that they should fix, right? Like, there's still some bugs with Wish Ender Bow. It's still doing a lot of different it's doing more damage than it should be, right? And they still haven't fixed that. It's been almost a month into this season, and they still haven't fixed it. So, there's still a lot of things that they haven't fixed, and they only care when something's like super super broken. So, and then people are also really skeptical of Bungie since they're only going to be doing seasons for a while. It's going to be a long time until we get another expansion experience like Shadowkeep. So, as it is right now, I'm definitely not going to pay $10 for a season. That's not going to matter when the next season rolls around. Like, I'll pay when there's actual content, when an expansion drops, but not for just incremental doses of content that's not even worth it. You know what I mean? To me, that's just not fun and it's a waste of time. And as it is right now, that's what Destiny 2 is, in my opinion. It's just a waste of time to even try to get or invest time in it. You know what I mean? Unless you're a new player who has never played it before, then I would say, have fun. Have as much fun as you can and enjoy it while you can. Because as it is right now, the vets have nothing really to do. At least in my opinion. But hey, what do I know? I only sink like 500 hours into the game and I still don't know anything. And it's even more before it moved to Steam. It's probably close to 1,000, 2,000 hours. The game's kind of stupid as it is right now. To be honest, I'm kind of curious if Star Wars is also in the same place, since I haven't really been keeping up with it. Nothing's happening. Did we ever hear anything else about that PTS, by the way? Has it just been canceled?
It was only for the Alderaan Stronghold. So
That's it?
Yeah, just for the Alderaan Stronghold.
Yikes. So we don't know anything else.
And we don't know anything at all about what's happening. We just know that February is when 6.1 is coming. I imagine something's gonna happen then.
Wait, when is it happening? Sorry.
February.
February? I mean, it's a couple more weeks, 3 more weeks, but still, yeah. Nothing's really happening. It's kind of unfortunate.
I mean, if you play PvE, yeah, eventually you hit a point where there's not much to do or nothing to do. But I think that kind of happens to every game, unless it's like a sandbox. Because when you have set raid content and stuff like that, you're eventually gonna finish all of it. There's not gonna be much for you to do. That's where a lot of people then think that, oh, maybe I should turn to PvP and see how the state of PvP is and see if you like it. And a lot of replayability in most games when people have already completed everything is playing PvP.
Yeah.
And I would say at the moment of Star Wars, the story replayability is good. PvP replayability is probably the main traction for this game. I would say a lot of people come back to this game and or keep playing after they've completed everything just to play PvP because it's fun.
Yeah, and to
Even
be honest, I
in
think
the unbalanced state right now, it's people are still having a blast. Like I'm having a blast in some of the games that I have. They're more funny and less serious than ever, but it's fun. It's nice.
And to be honest, I really do think that's quite a bit of draw for most MMOs in general. It's just that PvE is a big part of the game, but it's more of an introduction to the game more than anything. And then once you're kind of tired of PvE, that's when you move on to PvP. And it doesn't matter what MMO it is. I think that's just the natural state of things, because player versus player is always going to be this infinite amount of experience that you can get, because you can always learn. There's always someone better than you, and it's just a lot of fun regardless of your skill level. Maybe you just don't like that kind of thing, and that's fine. But I feel like if you want to have a good MMO, there needs to be a good mix and a good flow between PvE and PvP. Like I keep talking about Wrath of the Lich King for WoW, and in my opinion, that's always going to be the best expansion because you could take PvE stuff into PvP and it would still be really good. Like the best people with the highest ratings in Arena would always have some of the best raid gear available. So it actively
Yeah.
encouraged both PvP and PvE if you wanted to be the best. So I just think that was ingenious, and most MMOs these days don't do that. In fact, WoW doesn't even do that anymore. They kind of separate them now. So you only have your PvP gear, and then you only have your PvE gear. I think that's actually very counterintuitive. I feel like it should mix.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, yeah, that deters a lot of people from wanting to try to compete too. A lot of people don't want to do that stuff. A lot of people don't want to deal with big groups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'd assume that's probably why they steered away from it. But regardless, I think that's a cool thing. But they could very much so make a PvE game mode that has replayability. Like there's used to be a thing way back in the day in RuneScape before it became RuneScape 3. There was a tower designed for challenges and whatnot. So basically, you would go in, you'd kill one boss, and then you'd kill the next boss. And each time you went up in the tower, it became more difficult, but also at the same time, sometimes you would get restrictions. You wouldn't be able to use this, that, or the other. To just increasingly get difficult, and you get like kind of like prestige rewards. So it gave you a reason to compete. Obviously, there's a leaderboard too, but it's not just in that game. Like Blade and Soul has it too, but Blade and Soul has kind of like a pay to gear model. It's not really pay to win because you don't really get any advantages out of the gear in PvP
Yeah.
because it's equalized. But in Blade and Soul, it's like pay the gear. That's how they make most of their money. A lot of people just buy the gear. And in that game, there's a lot of PvE content that has leaderboards that you compete for being the fastest person to kill this boss or that boss and all this other stuff. Like they could put like some sort of competitive PvE in pretty much any game. It's not something
not
that would be too
impossible.
hard, and it would
Yeah.
definitely bring a lot of replayability to pretty much every game.
Yeah. In fact, maybe that should have been WoW's next step instead of, trying to ruin the experience for both. Because in my opinion, that's kind of what they did. But their PvE experience is still top notch from what I hear. So, I don't know. Not looking forward to the next WoW expansion at all. I don't remember who said it, but I think it was the last time we were in this podcast. Someone was actually saying that they're actually going to squish everything back down to level 60, and you don't even need to do any of the expansions to level anymore. So
Yeah, I
if
think
this was Bungie back then, not Bungie, Blizzard back then, I feel like they could pull it off. But as they are right now, I really don't think they can pull it off. Go ahead, Nami.
No, I was gonna say that was Sukasa.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's a big WoW player.
yeah. Like I said, I just don't feel like they have the skill or know-how or even the will to pull it off, because that's the other thing. Like I'm sure the WoW team at this point has been working on it for what, almost 17 years, 16 years, and you know there's a limit to how much time you want to invest in one game, you know what I mean, as a job. Like that's got to be mentally draining. It's like, oh, it's the same thing every year, you know what I mean? Like we think
Mhm.
it's
I
grueling
mean,
for players, but I can only imagine how bad it is for devs.
I would imagine that they don't have all the same people, original people. I'm sure a lot of the people have retired within that time frame, but at the same time, it's not just WoW that has an old development team like that because they've been developing on the same game forever. RuneScape has been like that. We've old school RuneScape lost two of its devs. I believe it was ModMac and I can't remember the other person. They just left. They just don't want to work on the project anymore. But
Mm-hmm.
they were around since the beginning of the game, back in like 1999 to 2000. And seeing them go, yeah, that's a thing. But I feel like it doesn't matter that much. Most of the people that come in and to work on it, they care about the game, they enjoy the game, even if they're not the original player or not players, but developers. They can still kind of pick up and understand the same, at least like kind of line where they want to go to. I think they could probably pull it off actually, uh, squishing everything down to 60 and making doing all that stuff, leveling content, kind of irrelevant. I mean, like there's still a reason to do it because the story might be good, but not forcing you to do it. I think that is a great move for them because what is it, 120 levels? The main reason I didn't want to get into that game and play BFA was the fact that the class that I played, I boosted to 110. I did the most recent expansion, I was like, yeah. And then I had to go back and do some other stuff because I had to do rep grinding and stuff like that. I didn't like that, but I did it, right? And the thought of starting a new character and leveling all the way up there and then doing that too, just to play with one of my friends because we're playing conflicting classes and we can't queue up for 2v2 because we would do absolute ass together, is like, it's a big drawback. Like, I don't want to spend a month to level a class that I might not like with a friend that I'm only going to play like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I
So I
get
think
you.
that would be a good thing for them.
I mean, I get that, but at the same time, my opinion on the thing is coming from, an old school player that I wouldn't even say has most of the classes leveled up. I would say I have some of them leveled up, the ones I want leveled up. You know what I mean? Because back then it really was even more of a time sink than it is now. Literally, just getting from 70 to 80 during Wrath still took, if you played as much as or as little as I did, still took me a good month, if anything, just to get those 10 levels. But that's
Yeah.
probably just because I, did PvP on the side, and that probably took up most of my time. But I don't know. Like I said,
I
go
see
ahead.
it as like, as the games progress and as they get older, I see no reason to make leveling the main focus anymore.
I mean, my question is, well, actually, I know the answer to this question is why don't they just kill WoW and just make a WoW 2? And it's just because it still makes the money, so why bother? You know what I mean? It's it's more of a risk to end
People
WoW
would hate
than it
that.
is to make another one.
I mean,
So
obviously they should maybe stop development on it and make a new game and keep the old one up because people are still going to pay for that old one,
yeah,
even if it's not getting any development updates. I mean, maybe throw in some bug fixes and balance changes. That's really all it needs to be replayed over and over.
yeah. 'Cause that's the other thing. I'm gonna drag this back to Destiny again. As far as endgame activities to go for, there really isn't anything. But if you go just take a look at WoW, you can go transmog grinding, you could go mount grinding, you could go title grinding if you really wanted to. You can grind reps. There's so much to grind, but there's in D2 there really isn't much if you're at the end game. If you have everything, if you have, Recluse as Nagi's Wendigo, the main PvE loadout as of now, there really isn't much else to grind unless you just want to farm the exotics from the raids. But there's people who've only have still not gotten the raid exotics after like 130 attempts. That's how
Jeez.
ridiculous the chances are sometimes. That could be your luck, that could be your buddy's luck. So
Yeah, I can't remember what game I played, but you get tokens from doing like group PvE content. So it was Goers too. I think they gave you tokens. So if you didn't get what you wanted, you could run it a couple of times, and then you would have enough tokens to buy the said item. So you would never run into the situation where you never got the item that you wanted.
yeah, I mean,
They
to
should
be
really
honest, that's kind
implement
of why
something like that.
I was so surprised when people were upset about Osis when it came out, because to me that was a good idea, just to have uh, something you can for sure turn in to get something, and you know what you need to do to get it. I get that people
Yeah.
probably didn't want to do the world bosses and stuff like that to get it. Maybe they should change that, but I feel like the whole reaction to that was a bit too surprising to me. I guess people in this game are just too used to getting the rewards from boxes,
I
I
think
guess.
players were mostly annoyed that the parts were restricted to the certain slot. So if it was like an enhancement on a glove, it stuck to that enhancement glove slot. Like, you can't put that in your head or your chest or anything. I think most
Oh,
people
okay,
were
yeah,
really
that is
mad
dumb.
about that
100%.
rather than, that they have to do a ridiculous grind for it. Like, the grind is bad, people sucked it up, dealt with it.
Yeah.
We didn't get legacy MDCs, which honestly would have fixed the whole problem. And, just making each slot, like, it was almost pointless to take out things pretty much because of the way they made it. So there was like no diversity. Like, I can't take out accuracy out of my glove and like put a alacrity for my chest in there or something, and vice versa. Couldn't do that. It wasn't allowed. I would have to buy healer pieces just to get critical instead of accuracy.
Yeah, I agree that is dumb. But to be honest, if people probably didn't react so negatively, they probably would have just take a look into the system and be like, "Oh, that's kind of fucked. Why don't we just fix that?" And people will still like the system. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when they did a Q&A and stuff about it, I brought up a lot of things to actually answer like 2 different of my questions. They said they're not going to do legacy MDCs because they're going to make them redundant soon. 6.0, so I was like, okay, well, whatever makes it so hard that you can't make them legacy MDCs. Like, I was really irritated by it because I assume that it would be easy fix, but I guess it wasn't. That's why they denied it. But if they just said yes, I think they would have made everybody happy, like instantly right there, because there were so many people with so many alts that could have just taken advantage of that right away. But they said no. That became redundant, which is great. And moving forward, I think pretty much everybody gave them negative feedback, and I think they understand what they did wrong. They've kind of done it right this time. It's just so expensive to constantly change amplifiers, for example.
Yeah. I'm kind of lagging out. Give me a second. I mean, as far as RNG goes on gear, like the amplifiers, I've never really been a huge fan of that because, to be honest, that just reminds me a crap ton of the way in WoW that you used to be able to reforge your gear, but you were at least able to select what you wanted. So you would take stats from one thing, like if you didn't want accuracy, you could put it into crit. You know what I mean? Let's say you're already at the accuracy threshold. Oh shit, I can just put that into crit, and then boom, more stats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with the amplifiers, it feels more like, a money sink than anything, just to make sure people aren't always rich forever. So I don't know. I feel like the team should probably, look a bit more into other games to see how other people are doing it as well and learn lessons from that. I feel like that goes within any dev team, but for MMOs especially.
I I want
They
to
should
say with regard. Oh, go ahead.
they should definitely make a system where once you've unlocked 7 or whatever, like make it 10 or something, or just make it stackable for infinite. So whenever you unlock a gold enhancement, or not enhancement, but a gold amplifier, have it stack in like options to switch your amplifiers. So let's say you unlock a full set and 2 hilts. So say you're playing Marauder, so you got 7 arm rings and 2 hilts. So let's say that's all periodic intensity, and you want to change it to weapon expertise so you can play Carnage. When you would swap it, just allow you to swap it without switching out your armor rings. Just have like a little menu to swap what amplifier it is, and then when you swap, it'll give you 7, periodic intensity amps in the cargo bay or whatever it would be. They can make like a little system to keep track of how many you have, and you could never put on more unless you've unlocked it. Once you've unlocked it, you can then collect more and more. So then you could just switch through the menu without having to actually pay. That would be such a nice system, but and I think they should do away with amplifiers as a whole because it's going to make balance impossible.
The funny thing is, Nami, actually, I'll let you go first. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say the pricing on trying to re-roll the amps are expensive, and for the casual player that doesn't play X amount of hours, an enormous amount of hours during the week, it's going to take them forever to get to that point. You know what I mean? And I just kind of feel like it should be, as what C says, maybe unlocked. Once you get a gold piece, it unlocks into like your collections or whatever. Because it is incredibly expensive just to get one gold. And at one point, it gets like, once you get to like, let's say 60K just to re-roll it, it then goes up to 80K. So it's like it increases by every re-roll. And imagine you have to do that 14 times. I spent a lot of money just getting my healers set. And now, okay, so for example, I'm just going to say, for example, the set that I'm using for my my healer Merc is the same set that I'm going to want, or that I want for my Arsenal Merc. The only thing is that I don't have the stat that I really want on my DPS Merc. So in order to really get that, I either have to get a whole bunch of mods and re-roll again to get what I want, or, well, basically that's what I have to do. But once I do get that, I then have to pay if I want to switch between the the two roles, I need to pay to extract and keep all my mods together, like my whole 14 over to the side. And that's for one character. So I think it is really it really is something that should be looked into, in my opinion, because for some of us who have multiple alts, don't have, we have a lot of mains, let's even say, I don't think it's doable, not for the casual player. And that when you get to like the ranked environment, or you get to the end game part, it's something that is required. It's something that you need to have. So I mean, either doing away with it or putting in collections. I do agree with that. Some people don't even have a few 10 million to be able to do this, and it does cost that much. I forgot how much it cost me to roll my healers to the perfect stats, but yeah, pretty expensive.
It's 9 pieces and not 14 because the left hand side amplifiers do not matter. It's not combat
Yeah,
related.
I'm sorry,
So,
it is 9.
you're getting amps for all of your pieces, right? So it'd be all armorings, hilt sparrows,
Yeah.
whatnot, and then if you really want to go that step further, you can get an amplified champion piece, and you can roll on that because that can roll a combat modifier. However, it only goes to blue.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not really hard to get that one.
They
But yeah,
drop.
having a collection for that, like where I would say you have like 7 of 7 of this or 7 of 7, it have to be like 8 or something, because some classes use armoring in their offhand, so you can't just limit it. So it'd be nice to be able to either make a way for us to quick swap or just something. It would be nice. My only problem is I think they might do away with them soon. Like, let's say if we get a stat squash or level squash or something like WoW does, for example. We've had a stat squash before in 3.0. If we ever have one again, that percentage stuff, that's really going to mess with balance. Not only is it causing problems right now because it makes dots just so much better because periodic intensity is better than some other things, like it's scaling better. It's just doing more for the class than like a burst class getting tech whiz or weapon recipes or whatever. Like if they kind of realize that percentage is not a good idea and they just remove that, I think that would be good too, because then people don't have to worry about that and they're not paying a crap ton of credits all the time switching their armorings. Well, yes, removing amplifiers would suck. I think it would be better for balance as a whole.
I don't know. The thing I was going to say is that the whole amplifier thing really reminds me a lot of the seasonal mods in the current season of Destiny. And the problem with them is that you have to invest so much into them, and you can only put them on that seasonal armor, right? So all that previous armor you had before, tough crap, you're not going to be able to use those new mods on it. So what you have to do is you need to regrind armor, right? And then you need to get the mods, put them in there, make sure everything works, and then those mods aren't even going to be useful next season anyway.
That
So
sounds awful.
yeah, you literally just wasted your time getting good this season for it to not matter next season. And
so like getting all the Iron Banner gear, like I won't be able to use.
yeah, you're not going to be able to use the new season mods if you got it last season. Sorry.
Reasons to not play.
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is, this season's Iron Banner was awful. The only reason it was honestly more painful was because the last step before you could even turn in tokens to get Iron Banner gear was you needed to get 10 rocket launcher kills. Now that sounds easy, but it's not when everyone needs to do it as well. Everyone's going to be camping that heavy ammo the entire match, so have fun.
Yeah, sounds. You don't need to give people more reasons to camp heavy ammo, please.
You really don't. And the thing I hate about heavy ammo is that it's trying to be like Halo, right? Because it's like, oh, you have power weapons around the map. But the thing is, in Halo, everyone has the same weapons.
The maps are huge too.
Yeah, and they're giant maps most of the time. And they're actually designed around the size of the people in the playlist. You know what I mean? Because the original Destiny 2 was meant for 4v4. Now it's 6v6 because they want to make it more like Destiny 1 because people were complaining. and the maps aren't big enough. I'm sorry, I don't care what you say, they're just not big enough. This is the reason why so many people just run around with spare rations mindbenders. They're easy to use and they have the biggest range and they're shotguns, so you just literally slide around corners and kill people for free.
Yep.
That
So
would
that's the
still be six, by
situations
the way.
for like mid-range weapons. Like, I don't know about that game, for example, but like mid-range weapons, that's why I like the battle rifle or DMR and like Halo,
Mhm.
because that usually fits all ranges, even sometimes close engagements. You just don't zoom.
Yeah.
But in long engagements, you just zoom. Like, problem solved. It's not too complicated. You don't really need to swap. You can use the pistol. You're probably not going to land those long range, and it's probably not going to do much damage. But
Yeah.
like in that game, like I felt like the entire time I was either using the pulse rifle and trying to go into the most open area with cover, so then I could see more. Because as soon as I get into tight engagement, if I don't have a shotgun out, I'm probably
Basically
around
dead.
getting punched to death.
Yeah. And I mean, every class has fucking commando lunge on. Commando lunge on. But, it just emphasizes that all you need to do to win in D2 is to get close, and if they don't have a shotgun, you just win. Most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
I made it 100% certain that whenever I'm using my pulse rifles, I am moving slow as possible and strategically as possible too, so I can stay behind cover. And if I ever go around a corner, I get the most field of view I can. Like I get far as away from the edge so nobody can immediately shotgun me.
Yeah.
Because if I ever get in a situation where I get shotgun right away, I'm done. It sucks.
I mean, the funny thing is, you were bringing up the DMR and the battle rifle as well as potential close range weapons. The funny thing is, the AR will generally still beat them if you are missing as much as they are, right? But if you actually hit all your shots, you will absolutely defeat them. It's just
when you get headshots, it's just over.
Yeah. So there's more skill gap there, and to be honest, most of the time I'll still use an AR in close range if I know, hey, we're close enough, and I can just beat you to death with this thing anyway. So I don't know. The weapons actually have balance in Halo. It's impossible to balance D2 as far as the Crucible goes, but to be honest, that's also part of the charm of it. It's just it can be so chaotic and fun that people enjoy that kind of thing. But it shouldn't, try. Well, no, this is what it shouldn't do. It should not make easy weapons to get that are stupidly powerful, but also really easy to use. Like the way Now Forgotten used to work, because this is the weapon you had to grind to Legend for in comp. You needed to, farm for Luna headshots, which was the previous weapon before its predecessor, and then, to proc its perk, Magnificent Howl, you needed to get 2 headshots, and then you could transfer that to someone else and 2-tap them, or you could just use it to finish off a kill. It was a very skill-based weapon, and if you, spammed it, you wouldn't proc your Mag Howl perk on who you wanted to, or you would just waste it, because it only lasts for 2 shots, or 1 shot now. So, there was skill to that weapon, and it was powerful. But the way it is now, it's just, as far as the Mindbenders and the spare rations go, it's just, oh, I have this thing, so you're just gonna lose if you can't kill me first, because they're just dumb easy to use. You just point at them and click. That's all there is to it. That's
Eventually, I'm sure the community, if they stick to it, will find a way to play against those things, much like how RuneScape was at a point. There was multiple overpowered things in the history of RuneScape, and for the most part, the entire community found ways to deal with them or ways to survive against them. But most of those things either required a crap ton of money, which means you had to play for quite a long time just to make enough money to get those items, or you had to do a crap ton of quests, which quests was required to do most of to get most of the best in slots in the game to go PvPing. And PvP in that game would make you money, so when you actually defeated somebody in combat, you would get their stuff that they dropped. So it was not only rewarding, it was also like, hey, if you spent a lot of time in this game and you got a crap ton of money and and or you did all these quests to get this weapon or whatever, you felt like your time investment was rewarded because you get to use that time as advantage over another person. And then chances are, the other person eventually, as the game goes on, everybody else is going to start getting those if they, are good enough to do it or just have the time to do it. But when everybody has it, yeah, it's going to be harder for the average person to probably learn how to play against it, or they're just going to use it themselves too, which eventually is going to get really boring when everybody's using the same thing.
Yeah, that's kind of the point where people are in D2. It's just most people, if they're unbroken or at least the upper skill players, will always just resort to using mind benders and spare rations, and it is so boring to play against. And even if you give that loadout to just an average player, they're still gonna do better than most of the average players too. Even sometimes better than the above average players. That's just how good those guns are. So I just feel like if they're gonna make powerful guns, they need to learn that you need to have them have a specific role and make them specialize in that role. Make that why they're powerful, not they're just powerful all around. They're just the best choice, so you gotta use it. Otherwise, you're at a disadvantage.
I would say too that Destiny 2 is a little confused probably in identity because it wants to be
absolutely.
an MMO, but it also wants to be a shooter PvP game. Which is a little too confusing to me because it's like you can't take yourself seriously in the shooter PvP because it's not. There's a lot of problems, obviously, there. We're not getting into that. So I think you could probably talk about that all day, and so could I. But the MMO aspect, as you said, there wasn't much for you to do for veteran players. I feel like it's confused on the identity of what it wants to be. Was want to be an MMO? It's a shooter. You're gonna have a hard time turning a shooter into MMO, but they're doing it. They're just not doing it right, I guess you could say.
I feel like they've kind of treaded in the middle. You know what I mean? Because they've successfully merged it, but at the same time, they haven't committed to either one. And at this point, that's kind of what's holding them back.
I mean, it's hard to pick too. And it's like, there's some people that only play PvE in that game. There's some people that only play PvP in that game. So it's how are you going to commit?
Well, I mean, I feel
part
like
of your player base probably.
I feel like the ingenious part about the PvP though is that you can take all the good stuff you got from PvE and then use in PvP and have these crazy things happen.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's never going to be competitive if that's the case. You know what I mean? It's just counterintuitive. Because eventually they're going to release some OP gun in PvE, or maybe it's not OP in PvE, but it's really strong in PvP. And, that's just going to break the system for a while. Because everyone's just going to use that. You know what I mean? And then there was actually the funny thing of the PvP pinnacle weapons last season or a few seasons ago, like the Recluse, the Revoker, Mountaintop. Those were the strongest in PvE, ironically. They weren't, I mean, they were still strong in PvP, but they were strongest in PvE. That's the sad part.
And then how they murdered Breakneck.
Yeah, and then they nerfed the other pinnacles just because.
Breakneck didn't even need it. Like, it wasn't even that strong in PvP, so it's just like, come on, man.
Yeah, I don't know what Bungie's thinking half the time. And this is something that Touchy actually brought to my attention, is the reason they're not working on expansions anymore is because the release of Shadowkeep was so stressful and it was too much work, and I just had to roll my eyes. Like, I understand that, work is stressful. I get that. But this is your job, okay? It's not going to be this stressful all the time. For you to say you're not going to work on expansions just because this one time was too much is ridiculous.
I think mostly they're probably just taking the time now that they're not working with Activision anymore and trying to enjoy. Because what they're doing it because they love it, obviously. And they don't have Activision breathing down their neck anymore, so I think they're probably just trying to get used to it and get, as the creativity flowing. So I'm sure they have good ideals, but maybe they're just not ready.
I get that, but at the same time, I feel like they need to realize this expansion release was not going to be as stressful as the rest of them because they were also moving to Steam from Battle.net, and that was probably the biggest source of stress, if anything. That's what I would see. And they also went free to play, another big thing they had to worry about. So at this point, I feel like if they do release more expansions, it's going to be a lot more stable. It's going to be a lot more controlled, and they don't have to worry about it as much because they've kind of settled in already. They're basically moving from one house to another house. Now that they're done moving in, it's time to get to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like there's just no excuse of being like, oh, this is too much work when that's actually your job. So don't give me that. I get that you like what you're doing, and I get you don't want to be stressed about it. I 100% get that. I'm not saying anyone should overwork themselves to the point where they're depressed or anything like that. But there is some kind of, middle ground where, you have to work for your job, so please work. Or you're fired.
It would be nice to see the same level of like content updates that Bungie gets, like in Star Wars, for example. Like I would happily trade for the same amount of updates.
Oh, absolutely.
What Bungie's doing to their game for Star Wars, because Star Wars is great, but part of their problem is obviously it's a small team, and while it's not a terrible game, there's a lot of money put into the game initially. Like the investment for this game is huge, and I don't know if they've made. I assume that they've made their money back, but at the same point, like most of the development time is going into cartel market because that's what makes them money. And assuming that EA is still wanting money and all that stuff, they're probably pushing the cartel market over everything. It's like, oh, if it's not making money, it's not important. Like balance changes. There's such long periods of times where things are just straight up broken and they break the balance completely that you can't even take like competitive scenes seriously because you could just play this one thing and it's better in everything. So it's like it's the season of this one class or one spec because it's king, and it's really silly because like for the most part, like most games, when you have something that's game breaking like that, they'll be like, oh, we're shutting down the servers for a hot fix. We'll see you guys when we come back up. We don't know how long it will take. If it takes 12 hours, who cares? The game's fixed. Once you come back, you can actually play seriously and ways like playing the most broken class and competitive and just climbing up there like it's nothing. And all the other classes are just getting, shafted because they're not as strong as that. And like while the classes that are good are just flying up there, and like every other class that's not that class is just getting shoved down in the dirt. Like even if they're good players, they're still getting shoved down in the dirt, which totally sucks. Balance changes for that game would be amazing to see a lot more often, but we probably never will.
The other funny thing is that both of these games are really pushing their best armor cosmetics into their store. You know what I mean? They're not putting it into the game. As far as I'm aware, maybe in Star Wars, there are some cool armors you can now earn thanks to the new expansion. But I feel like if they were to, instead of, forcing it all into the store and, kind of split it 60-40, have maybe 60% of it in the store or even 70% of it in the store and give 30% to the player base to grind for, I feel like that would incentivize a lot more people to go for them. You know what I mean? Because everyone likes to look cool and everyone likes to have something to grind for. So why don't you just make both of those things happen and, have people grind for it in game? At least in terms of Destiny, that's what should happen. As far as Star Wars goes, I feel like it would just be a nice change. But, I don't think they'll ever do that because, EA.
I'm okay. I don't need anything to grind for. I just want to play the game because PvP is fun. However, the balancing issue is huge. And on top of that, let's say you play a whole bunch of games, you can buy some of the cool looking gear, like Fear's gear will come out after the end of the season, I believe. And you'll be able to buy it, but you would have to play quite a few games to get the tokens to actually afford it. Yeah. So if you're not playing right now, or the seasons before, you're kind of screwed. And if you want to play now, you better be playing one of like 3 classes, otherwise you're not going to be having much of a fun time. And if you're a new player and you're not playing the certain class that's really strong right now, not only are you going to be hard to deal with, like let's say you're not a very good player, you're kind of new, but you still want to play because you want to get that stuff. And since the population is not very big, you're going to run into the same players all the time, and it's going to kind of ruin their experience, but there's nothing you can do about it. It's a population issue right there. And running into these people over and over, that's not only going to be a problem for you, it's going to be a problem for them. And you're going to maybe not learn anything through this whole experience. You're just going to go in there, you're going to die. You're not going to know whether you did good or bad. Somebody might berate you or something, or say that you're terrible. Then I guess maybe you did terrible, maybe you did good. Who knows? People will talk to you, but the thing is at the end of the day, you're going in there and you might play Juggernaut for lack of better choice right now. The worst class you could probably play DPS wise in solo ranked. and every time you get in there, you die immediately. You know what you're supposed to do, and it's not really just that. We have to learn the game and learn a lot about it because MMO PvP requires knowledge. That's the
That's
hugest
how it
thing, and on
works.
top of that, you also need to not kind of play the weakest class. If you're going to play the weakest class, you need to know pretty much everything you can, and even then, you're still dead because you're playing the weakest class right now. That's just how the meta slash balancing is at the moment.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Well,
doing a lot of damage, and you just get steamrolled.
I am very unhappy about it. It's kind of nice that you brought that up. Everybody knows that if I go into PvP, I'm gonna jump on my Juggernaut or my Guardian, and I'm at a loss because I'm at that point where, I mean, I could go heal in there, I guess, but the healer that I feel more confident in is going to be a sword healer versus like a merc healer. And I can do merc healing in PvE, but to the level of ranked PvP, no. Regular PvP, I really don't care. I mean, I'm just going to go out there and do what I can, but there isn't that pressure on me. I don't feel the pressure when I queue for PvP. But what's
Me too.
sad to me is that I don't know how to play an operative at all. And despite knowing some of the best, like number one operatives, scoundrels in the game, that's not going to help me with actual mechanics to me actually doing it at that top competitive level. And you hit a point where you said, oh, well, people just getting in who want to grind for the Fury, the replica Furious set. You have to be actually queuing. If you're starting now, you need to be going nonstop just to get the amount of comms that it's going to cost. Now, the experience, and this is what's sad, and I've brought this up to some of the ranked players, is that I really wish that some of the ranked players would band together and maybe do, for lack of better words, like workshops or something. Getting, if anybody is interested in trying to learn how to PvP, or even in like doing kickball where you're just going 4v4, since we have the Rishi stronghold where you're able to do that. I just kind of feel like there isn't
Challenges
enough
too.
tools. Yeah, air challenges. There is not enough tools for someone who is getting in, and there, for me, there lies a huge problem, is that I love, everybody knows this. If you've watched my stream, I would much prefer play an arena over a 8v8. I feel like in an 8v8 it's all over. I just really don't know what to do. It's just kind of like you see red, they're dead type of thing. I don't really play a lot of objectives. Sorry for all you objective players. I'm there to play PvP. I want to kill the other person. I want them to kill me. I don't want to sit there and babysit a node. It's just not fun to me. I'm going to sit the whole match by just standing next to a node and defending it. So for me, in an arena when there is no objective to be done, that's more fun for me. Not to mention that gives me experience to going into a ranked setting, which is a 4v4, because there is a huge difference between playing an 8v8 versus a 4v4. And I, as he was saying, like, he's played PvP, but how do you kind of make that move over to ranked? And the only way that you can do it, and, I've heard people have told me this, just go queue. But the toxicity, and also let's get away from the toxicity part. Let's not even think about that part right now. I know for myself, I feel pressure, especially if I'm queued or on my team is some great players, some good players, right? Good ranked players. Number one, I feel bad if my team lost, and it's because I was dead looking up at the sky for like 98% of the match. And that doesn't make me feel like I want to go back in there again because, even if nobody said anything to me, the point is nobody wants to feel that way. And even if you felt like you did good or you had the opportunity to do good, again, the class imbalance is huge because not everybody is going to be proficient on all 8 classes. It's just not going to happen. I don't think people have that amount of time or to actually put into being the best in every single class. Now, you're the anomaly, Cease, but I'm just saying overall. And it's just kind of sad because the rank community is complaining that you just don't have the population, but by the same token, it's very hard to get into that scene per se. And that needs to be fixed. And I don't know how it's going to be fixed because any competitive play, there is going to be toxicity. If you would have heard me in League of Legends, which I play primarily only competitive for 4 years. That's all I did because regular normals just were boring for me. There is kind of that excitement and adrenaline rush when you do competitive play, but it makes you toxic. And thank God, when I was playing, they didn't have like the voice, in the games yet. So the only one listening were my dogs hearing me like screaming, being all frustrated and whatnot in my matches. But I totally get it. Competitive play, that's what happens because you're all pissed. You just lost Elo because someone left the match or whatever the case may be.
Well, as far as getting upset over a comp match, I would say if you're going in to improve yourself, you're already ahead of the game. Because if you're just going in there to, get a reward, you're always going to be upset, no matter what, until you get that reward. It doesn't matter if you do well or do good. Your main objective isn't to get better. You're not thinking about why am I dead 98% of that match, right? You're thinking of, now it's going to take even longer to get that reward. Don't think of it that way. If you're going to get into ranked, I would say think of it as a way to get better. Even if you do get, insults hurled at you, if you're really just trying to get better, get some thick skin and just go in there. Because that's my best advice.
Well, yeah, and that would be fine in a lot of other games, right? Because there's meta
still
in
this game.
League.
Any competitive game, any competitive mode, you just get thick skin, you go in there to get better.
Yeah.
And then, once you're ready to get into a team setting, you go try to find some friends to scrim with. And then, you go do that.
And that would be fine if all the classes were able to be somewhat balanced. But when it's very hard to get better at a game when like the classes that are predominantly in queue right now are your stealth classes. If you're a juggernaut, which I'm a juggernaut, so of course I'm making the big complaint about that, is that it doesn't matter even if I played really good. It's going to be horrible for me to queue. I asked Cease to do it. I told Cease, and he's like, "Oh no, that sounds like a bad time." It's just
if we're just talking about a new player going into comp or going into ranked for the first time, even if you're under not top tier class, there's still so much you can learn just from going in there and giving it your all.
Oh, sure.
If we're just talking about that, sure. If we're talking about class balance, yeah, no duh. Everything's going to be imbalanced. As far as MMOs go, that's always going to be the case. And if you're getting into that, you should know that. But other than that, there's not much else you can do. If you're worried about it, just go for it and just try to grow some thick skin.
Well, yeah, and that's why I said, though, I made the statement, forget the toxicity part, forget that part, take that out of the equation. The problem is that if you go into a match, like if I want to go in and get like get what do you call it, placed in whatever, bronze or something, right? Even at bronze. Me going in on my juggernaut, I'm going to be dead probably 98% of the match. There's nothing to be learned from that. And therein, I think the class balancing, which Cease was talking about, if you're not playing the top 3 classes that are the meta right now, and you're not proficient in it, you're not going to learn anything. You may learn something on those classes if you go in and want to try them out, like an operative or whatnot. But going in on a Mara or a Juggernaut, you're not going to learn anything. You just aren't in a ranked environment, just because the way the classes are right now. And therein is what I'm saying is the bigger problem. The toxicity part, yes, it's always going to be there, and I recognize it because I was toxic in League of Legends. But I mean, yes, thick skin, try to not, let it bother you, but things do bother you in comp, right?
Well, I'm not saying you should be perfect and brush all of it off. If anything, just have a stress relief toy next to you and squeeze the crap out of it. I don't know. Just do whatever
Stress relief
makes you
toy.
feel better afterwards.
Oh my god,
Go work
Dubu,
out or
come
something.
here.
Okay, we're not making Dubu the stress relief toy.
He is. He has to come give me a kiss. No, he's
Okay,
looking at me
that's
like,
not what I
screw
thought
you.
were gonna do, 'cause
No,
I just
he's
said
like,
squeeze
he's
the
looking
crap
at me
out of
like,
it.
he just ran and hid under the bed. Okay, he knows
he
what's
knew.
up.
He knew.
He knew,
He's
no.
avoiding the danger while
He
he
came
can.
back out. He's like, okay, I guess she's not giving me another bone, but yeah, it's just, yeah, it's kind of interesting. I kind of feel like in this game, and a lot of you who have seen, I've been playing a lot of ESO, which is a big surprise for me since I started it 2 years ago and uninstalled it because I couldn't beat something and I was so frustrated. But I am enjoying myself in ESO. I don't know. I mean, I guess because it's new, right? New for me. I don't know how I'll feel once I've done pretty much everything. I might be like, now what? What? I kind of feel like it's Star Wars for me. It's kind of like, what's next? And the only thing that I could see that would be sustainable for me is to get back into PvP. PVE, I'm just kind of like, I don't want to go through the stories again.
I mean, why don't we let Cease talk? Because I don't want him to, you know, get upset because he has to type out his response and he hasn't had a chance to talk.
Oh,
Because he wanted to reply to why there wasn't, those comp workshops you were talking about before. My personal opinion on the matter before he starts is just I feel like people just have either too much pride or there's just been some personal falling outs between them that just haven't made them happen. So, I don't know. Go ahead, Cease.
Well, first, you will learn a lot playing a terrible class. Doesn't you could go in there and stuck it. You're able to watch what happens in the 4v4. If you're not watching, if you're just not paying attention, no, I died, whatever. You need to be watching about what happens in the game. Watch who and what is going on. So when you watch streams and whatnot, you're watching from one perspective. But when you're dead and you die in a good spot, you can watch what's going on. You can see what players are doing. You can pay attention to, hey, does he have his probes up? Or hey, did he do this? Hey, that guy broke. Hey, I can tell my team, hey, that guy broke. You guys can go him next time when his result bar is out. You can help the team while you're still dead. There's a lot of things that can be done. A lot of people don't do it, but sometimes most people will know, and you don't have to do that. But for example, there is a lot of stuff you can learn, and there's a lot of stuff that you can do to still help your team, even if you're dead. Your team can even tell you strategies on how to stay alive or what to do, because sometimes just running away and stalling for as much time as you can is the best way to help your team, even if you're not doing any damage or healing or protection or anything, even if you're not CCing. Like, you could straight up not hit anything on your keyboard except for movement abilities and still sometimes be useful. Granted, you shouldn't be going into PvP expecting to get carried. That's not how any PvP should work. Hold on. But typically, yes, in regular war zones, you should be PvPing because you want to PvP. If you're getting something out of PvP, you're just trying to do a conquest or whatever, I can get that. But most of the time, you want to go into PvP to have fun, enjoy it, and get better. A lot of people really need to realize, like as Score did say, you should be getting better as a player. That's what I was focused on for 3 years straight when I played this game. There was a lot to learn. I learned everything I could, and then I learned how to play by myself, and then I learned how to play with a group, and I learned how to play with a tank, and I learned how to play with 4 DPS. I learned pretty much every situation I could, And then I learned how to deal with pressure. So there was a point that I played this game where I intentionally irritated the entire server on a certain character, and I would queue up on PvP, and I would specifically target at the players that played PvP. I didn't try to harass anyone. I just tried to make it sure that I was the target. If they got into a PvP match, they wanted to kill me, right? So when you get that focus, when people are just playing to just kill you and nobody else, it's a whole different level of focus. And if you can still do good while somebody does that to you, or you have a whole team dedicated to doing it, or just slowing you or messing you up, you typically learn how to use DCDs, control, and when to blow something or when to not. But for the most part, that's one thing you can do as the trying to learn. Obviously, knowledge is everything. At the same time, you can watch people stream that play solos already. You can kind of get the meta. You can ask them, "Hey, what's doing good? Hey, what's doing bad? I want to get into this. I'm new." You can talk about that. Maybe they'll help you. Sometimes there's guilds that are into PvP that might do challenges. You could talk to them about it. You could ask them, "Hey, do you guys want to do challenges? I want to get solo ranked, but I'm not very good at PvP. Can we do like a in-house challenge where everybody plays DPS and we just do a challenge?" And basically, that would be like the same thing as a solo ranked game. However, you'd be playing for guildies and there would be nothing at stake. You wouldn't be losing or gaining rating. You wouldn't be even getting credits. You would be able to use journals and war zones and whatnot. You'd basically be in a solo ranked scenario, except for you're going against your friends. But obviously, they would take it serious. That is just one thing that you could do. You could obviously queue during preseason, which is another thing you can do, which would be really good. I don't know if we'll have another preseason next season, but hopefully we will. But jumping into queue now with the balancing issues, yes, while you have a chance to not learn anything because you're playing maybe Juggernaut and you're getting globed immediately, there is something you can still do and there's something you can still learn. There is no reason for you to how to put it. The term global is not used correctly, and it's never really been used correctly. And same with Skank Tank. People seem to have different opinions on what it is or whatever. Basically, a Skank Tank is a tank in DPS gear, but they are still a tank. Their job is still to guard. Their job is still control and taunting. That is a necessity for that. They are not a DPS. If you want a DPS, do not play them because they are a support role. Right? And then for what was it? I totally lost my train of thought. What was the other one I said before that?
You said
Before
Skank
Skank
Tank and what?
I said one thing before that. I can't remember.
I
So
can't
let me slip
remember.
my mind.
Someone say
Okay, well, my brain has just shut off. It's like, okay, Windows 98 shutting down.
it.
You said global was not.
Okay, yeah, global
is-
is that word is not used correctly either. Okay, so usually what something happens when you're global, right, is that at one moment you're there, you still have your DCDs, you have everything, and the next moment you're gone, right? You do not global someone when you kill them in a double CC chain. That is not a global. That's a kill because you timed it well. You executed a plan and you did it well. Good job. That's not global. Global is something when someone doesn't react and they die so fast that they weren't able to react or they weren't fast enough to react. In most situations, you don't get into those. Like, you don't have those actually happen. Things that will happen in game currently, if you actually want to get globaled, is play AP and not pay attention to what you're hitting, hit an operative 150%, reflect, and have one or two stealthers open up on you at the same time. The reflect damage is going to kill you, so are the stealthers. You can literally die in the same GCD that you get stunned. It is insane the amount of damage that you can take. That would be one example of a true global, because you would be there 1 second, and the next second you wouldn't be there anymore. You would still be in the same GCD that you just sent out as soon as you died, which is awful. However, most players are not going to get into that situation. You're not going to have that happen to you. There are times where you catch somebody in the stun, you kill them in the stun, and they're either choosing, hey, I should break, or hey, I already broke, so I'm dead here. It's not technically a global, but you did catch them and they're dead now. So it really ties down to what's most important. Obviously, if somebody breaks, you're most likely going to be able to kill them in a CC chain next time, if you guys have enough damage. But typically, when you get global, you instantly die in one global cooldown. That's why it's called global. It's global cooldown. It's the first one, or not the first one, but it's one of them. So you'll die within that, and it can happen in this game. It used to happen a lot more because we had a lot less HP. We did considerable amount of damage when somebody would line up on you. There's a lot of great clips of actual globals where people were there 1 second and the next second they coordinated a burst on them and they're gone. Like, those are true globals, and for most part people are saying like, oh yeah, global in 12 seconds. That's not a global. That's like 9 global cooldowns there. You didn't global that person. They probably used quite a few things before they went down. But basically, typically you don't get into those situations, right? And without getting into those situations, that means you have knowledge. If you have knowledge, you can use that to your advantage and try to extend your life, while at the same time trying to be more supportive or helpful for your team. If you're playing Juggernaut, you can't get away with guarding, you can't get away with interceding. Intimidated Roar is the strongest CC in the game next to Flashbang. There's no reason not to use it. And pretty much, yes, while you're not the class that most people want on their team, you can still do something. Like, they're going to kill you first, so the rest of your team can make something out of that.
So go in with the plan.
Yeah, for the most part, there's no reason not to go in with a plan. It's a 4v4 game, right? And ranked, each player individually matters. If you're not all trying, if you're not all using everything that you have at your disposal, and if you're not all like going in with the same mindset of like, hey, I just want to play or I want to improve, you're gonna A, tilt very easily, or 2, just die without using things, or 3, you're going to hate each other because one of your teammates got global. Like, if you're gonna have that issue, just for the better part, just don't play, because you're not actually queuing up to be competitive or as really want to do what you're doing. For the most part, yes, a lot of people will give up. That's common, but if you can at least try to talk to them, be positive, even if you're not doing great, sometimes people will just play. There's been many times where I've said in ranked chat to people that were new to the game and had no idea what to do. I guided them at what he wanted to do, and I said I would support him the best way I can, and this is to just play. Like, just play, that's all. You don't have to say anything complicated, just play. They play, you win. It's sometimes kind of as magical, because otherwise you could be berating him or putting him down or something, and then he doesn't try at all, and then you just lose.
It's true. I mean, that's why a 3v4 is so much harder than a 4v4.
Yeah, but again, I know Duck probably already left and he's not coming back, but most people that have played the game, being the best of best, or whatever quotations that he wants to say, most of these people have written guides. They have video guides. They have guides. They give out everything they know most of the time. There's very few people that know things that they don't want to give out. Like, the only thing I don't know is how to do the Jedi Knight Ravage root pool. If somebody knows that, please tell me. I want to bug report it. I want it out of the game already, because it's extremely annoying to deal with. That's the only thing I don't know, and that's not meant to be in the game. That is a bug. Some people abuse it. But outside of that, I've shared everything, and every other bug that I've ever figured out, I've reported it, and most of them have been fixed. So people keeping stuff for themselves is not technically true. Let people tell you everything you need to know and how important everything is. Like, I have multiple videos on my YouTube, by the way, talking about ranked, talking about 44s, talking about PvP. I did a guide recently called for Star Wars, basically how to do PvP in Star Wars, like combat specifically, how to use consumables and other things like that. strategies for certain maps, how to play line of sight, knocking people off the ledges, what CC is, the resolve system, all kinds of important things that you need to learn for this game to excel in. I highly recommend watching it if you actually want to learn a lot of things about PvP and how you can maximize your potential. It's not really an advantage because everybody uses it. A lot of people already know this stuff, and if you don't know it, then that's because you haven't looked for it. And I think for the most part, I think that answer is ducks. And as his question, the only problem is like, yes, the people don't want to sit there and teach a lot of people, but there are guilds out there. Off the top of my head, I can't remember, but Nubilator, I don't know if that's still his name, but he does have a guild on Starforge Imperial, and he is trying to get into PvP. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people that are in his guild that are also interested in PvP, and for doing challenges, they would more than likely do it. So if you were to join like a PvP related guild, the character you want to do PvP on, it'd be really important to say, hey, can we do like challenges every other day or something like that, and just get practice. I mean, you could probably pull in people from Fleet or PvP chat that would be willing to do it too. And if you're lucky, you might be able to pull somebody that actually does solo ranked all the time. And you pull that person, they could probably give you tips on how to play better, how to deal with things better, explain their class and how to counter their own class. Like the best ways to really learn is talking to the people that play a certain class. It's like, how can I beat you? What can I do to help you or go against you? Like when I'm playing Warrior, I've said countless times ever since I started playing a lot again back in 4.0 was that I noticed a lot of sorcerers were using their force speed to go around in a circle rather than just go in a straight direction. If you go in a straight direction, you go far away. And it's not just far away that I can just leap to, it's far away that I cannot leap to anymore, and you can use your range advantage against me, right? Any good Sorc will not force speed until you've leapt to them, and then they'll force speed away. And they won't do it in a circle, they'll do it far away. So if you were to somehow have Mad Dash or get your leap back, you're not going to be able to jump to them unless they get closer. A lot of people just mess up and do that all the time, and obviously people have gotten better at not doing that. That's just one example. Like, never force speed before somebody's leapt, because they're just going to jump to you when you're done force speeding. There's a lot of other things like that.
There's a lot of udders.
Other things, sorry.
I'm just teasing you, my guy.
Well, there's a couple of, I guess, announcements that I wanted to say really quick before we wrap this up. Is I just linked Cease's YouTube channel. So if you're not subbed to him, which is basically a follow on YouTube, you may want to do that. Go ahead and link on that and go sub to him. He has been uploading quite a few videos, and I know more to come. He's going to try and get a warrior, both guides up for the Juggernaut and the Mars, and I'm sure others as well. There's another thing that I want to announce as well. On the 25th, if there's anybody here from EU, Darth Malgus specifically, there's going to be a dueling tournament on the Nothing Personal. I think it's going to still be called the Nothing Personal tournaments. Dueling tournaments are going to actually come back, and they're setting it up for currently right now the 25th of this month. So not next weekend, but the following, I guess, in 2 weeks, probably on a Saturday, I think it might be. But we'll be covering that. So that's something to look forward to if any of you guys are from EU, just to come out and go out there and just have fun and duel. It's nothing like super intense or anything. It's just kind of fun. A whole bunch of guys getting together and just doing 1v1s. So definitely look for the announcements of that in my server. I'll be announcing it as well when I stream Sorry, I haven't been streaming that much lately. Been kind of sick, and I was just like, with the holidays, I think it's just slow moving. But we have Score, I know, who is going to be streaming some Monster Hunter. What is it? Iceborne? Is that what it's called?
I'm gonna let her figure it out. Cease. What do you think?
Is it Iceborne or Rise of the Iceborne? I don't even know. I don't even know. I'm
She
not
doesn't
too
play
sure.
it.
Heard it was Pokemon Legends. You know?
Oh, okay.
Pokemon
There you go.
Legends.
Pixelmon. Pixelmon. That's where Cease will be. He'll be building stuff in Pixelmon. That or RuneScape and like hitting wolves or Draculas or something like that. But yeah, it's pretty. That is too funny. Garen support. Oh my god. That is too funny. I remember playing Garen top. It was pretty good with the heal. I think they reworked him not too long ago. That's what I saw. So that yeah, it's pretty funny. Garen support. Just spend to win. Get out of my way.
I mean, the one criticism I've heard of Riot, especially, is just they keep changing their game for the sake of it. That's like the one thing I keep hearing about League. It's like it's always changing. You always got to keep up to date if you want to keep playing, and it's just I don't know about anyone else, but that does not sound like a very fun, thing to
No,
have
they
to do
balance
for
it.
veteran players.
They balance it towards the higher end, like the highest tier of gameplay. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of issues, like overall, because not every player is clearly
Well,
capable of playing at the highest level.
what Riot does, though, and I do like it, is Riot had. I mean, I know for God, how many champs are in the game? I know when I counted, I had over 144, and that was actually a few years ago. And I own all the champs in the game, but I just don't know what the number of it is currently. But what they do, what I
148.
like about it, is that every week they rotate like what champs are free to use for that whole week. So it gives you an opportunity before you want to get them with your IP or LP or whatever they're calling it now. It gives you an opportunity to test out a champ for a whole week. And it's a rolling one. So then the following week there's another however many champs. And it's not like one or two, it's a whole bunch. And
I mean, I
Been
wouldn't
like that
okay.
forever.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I guess.
What'd you
Go
say?
ahead, Cease.
It's been like that forever.
Oh yeah.
I definitely do like that. The thing that I do like about League is when they bring in not serious game modes. I think that's something that they should prioritize more often, because not everybody plays at the highest levels. They're playing ranked all the time. It's nice to take a break and be able to just jump into Earth, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a complete mess. Having multiple different game modes is just nice, even if they're not
Yeah.
always getting played. Having the option to, get out of like a serious competitive game mode into a more fun mode, just to kind of.
And I think
upload
they
your
still have
stats after
Dominion.
losing.
Don't they still have Dominion? That was fun when I
Pretty
first
sure
played
that
it.
was
That got
deleted.
removed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they removed that.
Oh, they
and
removed
the YouTuber
Dominion.
I watched criticize was actually really upset about that. But that's one thing.
I know
The
they
other
brought it.
criticism he had was that League of Legends doesn't really seem to have an endpoint with all these changes. And I know you were talking about free champions every week. That's not something you should be parading around as something that's amazing. A lot of other MOBAs do that too. That's kind of par for the course.
Well, I understand that, but what I'm saying is that in comparison to, let's say, SWTOR that has 8 different classes, there is, I mean, at least
Seven,
probably
wow.
160 champs. So the way that the meta runs, right, and it changes with like item levels. Obviously, they're pretty much geared from like your top tier players, right? Your pros. Um, the meta, the way that the meta is in those champs is that this champ can counter that champ. So if someone picks this champ, you're not gonna want to pick the underdog, but it doesn't mean that you couldn't win your lane against being the, let's just say, underdog on classes. So you have that opportunity of playing a lot more champs than you are tunes, I should say, than here if you play the game, I guess I should say. But you have the opportunity of playing them without having to buy them, because it is a free game, right? You can literally you play for free. It's not like you sub to it for $15. So you get quite a bit, I guess, from it. And maybe that's the same. I haven't played other MOBAs, so I don't know how it fares with the other MOBAs out there. But it is definitely going strong. It still is. And
It's
it's
different. It's different time investments there. So, like, well, MMORPG, time investment is your character. For MOBA, your time investment is the role that you play. So if somebody counters you, you play another class, or not class, but champion counters that one. Like, you usually have counter pulls, or you know that you're gonna get counter picked, so you pick in mind of that. You're specializing on the role, not
Yeah.
the champion. So you usually have something else in your arsenal to throw out there. So it's a lot different. Your time investment is different.
Yeah, but each champ has its different play style. So, I mean, you'd have to
Yeah,
learn
but
that
it's
as
not
well.
as complicated. The fundamentals of the game are the same, much like in this game, but there are a lot more quirks for this game because there's like 40 abilities to 36 abilities per character.
Yeah.
In that game, you've got 4 abilities and your utility
5,
spells, so that's 2.
6. Yeah.
And then from
Or
there,
I guess
it's pretty
5, 5.
straightforward.
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, it obviously it is, I don't know. I really do think that League of Legends has been doing really well, and I do like the game. I just haven't gone back to it, I guess. You know, who knows? I might go play League of Legends again. Who knows? More,
I mean, like,
It seems like
competitively.
garbage to me, but I don't play it, so.
Competitively, who knows? Who knows?
I don't think it's worth playing competitively, but if they ever brought Earth back, I would play it because that's fun. It was a really fun game mode. I enjoyed that. Or One for All.
Oh yeah,
Some
that
of
was
my
fun.
favorite memories of playing League was playing One for All with my friends, playing Darius, and the other team also happened to be Darius too. So we were just dunking each other all
Oh
the time.
yeah. I had a match. We were all Luxes, yeah, on both sides. But it was so funny. The very first match that I did on One for All, the other side. No. Wait, what was the other side? I can't remember what the other side was. But my team decided to pick all Anivia, so we would have a second life. It was hilarious. Yeah, it was good matches. Those are just fun,
played-
like you say, fun matches.
Yeah, I think or not my favorite, the hardest or most challenging one I played of One for All, which was completely unintentional. I don't think any of us wanted to have a hard match. We just wanted to fuck around. But the enemy team played Fiddlesticks, right? So they got fear.
Oh
And
my
then our
god.
team, because I wanted to play Nocturne really bad, I picked Nocturne, and everybody said, "Yeah, let's play Nocturne." And I'm like one of like 3, or no, I'm like one of 4 people, or no, it's not right. 2 of 5 people that know how to play Nocturne, right? So we're having to teach these guys how to play Nocturne, what the W is, how it's a spell shield, and how that
Yeah.
we have a fear on our E, and they also
Yeah.
have a fear too. But we can shield their fear, or we get silence first. So it's either shield the silence or whatever. It's kind of like a mind game. It was a really complicated match, and we ended up fearing each other all the time. Our team fights were the stupidest thing you'd ever see.
Yeah.
Obviously, we would spell shield and just run away, but they ever got us with the crowfield or whatever, that would kill us. But it was a lot of fun. Whenever we would randomly run into each other in like 1v1 or 2v1, it was just fear. That's all you saw.
Oh my goodness. I have a couple of nice skins for that. I've spent so much money on League of Legends. But anyways, if there is there any questions from the chat for any one of the guys? And yes, chocolate should always be stored in the refrigerator. I will go back to remind everyone that.
And it should be
So
hard.
it can
Remember
be
that.
And it should be
solid,
hard.
but not hard.
And
Solid.
it should have nuts. There you go. I have spoken. And if you guys don't know what that's from, that was from Mandalorian that you should watch if you haven't watched The Mandalorian. It's an amazing show. It's really good.
What's from Mandalorian? What?
I have spoken.
Oh. I'm pretty sure literally everybody ever has said I have spoken. And
I
that's
know,
specific to
But
Mandalorian.
I'm saying it's my reference to The Mandalorian and that people should watch it. That's what I was saying, or my point. This is the way. Yeah. Anyways, what does it say here? Oh yeah, you play Smite is very similar. Okay, so Stu, you have a question for Cease? Or if anybody doesn't, I'm gonna get you guys over to Score, who is playing Monster Hunter. You could probably ask him the question over there, Stewie. This is the way. Yes, this is the way. Put chocolate in the refrigerator at all times. What are you saying, Mandalorian is meh? Okay. Shame on you. Anyways, thank you so much, Aramel, for that shout out of Cease's YouTube. If you guys aren't following him or subbing to him, please go give him a sub so you can see his newest video, which he has quite a few actually that he's been working really hard on getting a lot of videos out because people have been asking him to, especially with the PvP ranks season starting. Or have started, I should say. But anyways, thank you all for being here. Next week, I am going to have a guest up here. I thought since we had taken off for the holidays that I would have all this game talk that the boys wanted to talk about, especially with new games coming out, or I should say new expansions coming out and whatnot. Again, on the 25th, so in a couple weeks, there's going to be that dueling tournament I'll be covering off of Darth Malgus. So if you are on Darth Malgus, make sure that you guys check either my Discord or ask me about it if you see me streaming. I'll probably come back streaming some Star Wars. Who knows? All this League of Legends talk, maybe I'll show you guys how it is and how I heal and support with Nami, which is where the name comes from. But I am going to get you guys over to Score. Thank you all for hanging out. Yeah, you play League of Legends. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, we should all play, although Ceased uninstalled it recently. But yeah. Totally. I'll come support you with Nami, Stewie. We'll do this on a stream. I know.